Have you ever wondered how far you could go if fear no longer influenced your decisions, if all doubts, hesitations, and excuses disappeared forever? The wisdom of Napoleon Hill teaches us that fear is not something to be feared, but something to be understood and mastered. Hill discovered that the most successful people are not free from fear, they just didn't let it control them. Over the next 90 days, following the principles of Napoleon Hill, you will learn to eliminate fear brick by brick, replacing it with unwavering confidence and unstoppable action. This is not fantasy. It's a decision. It's not about waiting for the fear to pass because, as Hill knew, courage is not the absence of fear but acting in its presence. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that fear no longer dictates your actions, that every decision you make is guided by your purpose, not your insecurities. This is the power that Napoleon Hill discovered, and today, your journey to claim. It begins. So take a deep breath, commit to the process, and get ready to transform your life into something you never dreamed possible. Napoleon Hill understood that fear is a natural reaction, a primitive instinct designed to protect. In ancient times, fear protected us from predators and physical dangers, but in the modern world, that same instinct can become a prison. Hill observed that fear often comes not from real threats, but from the stories you create in your mind. When you are about to speak publicly, start a business, or make a risky decision, fear arises not because you are in danger, but because you are facing the unknown. Hill taught that fear is not the problem. The problem comes when you obey it and let that inner voice stop you. Every time you retreat from fear, you give it more power, and every time you move forward in spite of it, you weaken it. This is what Hill learned from people like Thomas Edison, who faced countless failures without letting the fear of error stop him. For the next 90 days, your mission, inspired by Napoleon Hill, will be to act before fear takes hold. It's not about eliminating fear completely, but about training your mind to not see it as a sign to stop, but as an invitation to move forward. Napoleon Hill's first rule for destroying fear is to take control of your thoughts. Hill believed that the mind was a battlefield where fear was born and died. He discovered that negative thoughts, if left unchallenged, become beliefs that shape your reality. When fear whispers to you that you are not ready, that you will fail, or that you are not enough, it is not an absolute truth, it's a story you can rewrite. Hill taught a powerful technique called autosuggestion, which involves repeating positive affirmations and visualizing your success until your subconscious accepts them as reality. For the next 90 days, spend 10 minutes every morning speaking powerfully to yourself. Say out loud, "I am bigger than my fear, I act boldly. My purpose is stronger than my doubts." Hill noted that leaders like Abraham Lincoln used words to increase their self-confidence, even in their darkest moments. These statements are not just words, these are commands that reprogram your mind. By the end of the 90 days, you will have spent over 15 hours shaping your thoughts, which Hill says can change the trajectory of your life. Napoleon Hill's second rule is immediate action. Hill knew that fear increases with inaction. The more time you spend thinking about what could go wrong, the bigger the obstacle becomes in your mind. He learned from men like Henry Ford that the great act quickly before fear takes over. For the next 90 days, every day, no matter how small, you will take one step towards what you fear. If you are afraid of public speaking, start a conversation with a stranger. If you are afraid of failing in a project, take the first step, even if it is imperfect. Hill taught that action dissolves fear because it shows that the consequences are not as serious as you imagined. Every action is a victory over fear, and every cumulative victory makes you stronger. Imagine that after 90 days, you will have taken at least 90 bold steps. This is the kind of impulse that, according to Napoleon Hill, transforms life. Napoleon Hill's third rule is repeated exposure. Hill understood that fear loses its power when you constantly face it. He noted that leaders like Theodore Roosevelt, who overcame his shyness and became a magnetic speaker, exercised their courage by constantly exposing themselves to what terrified them. Over the next 90 days, identify a specific source of fear, perhaps rejection, failure, or criticism, and consciously confront it. For example, If you are afraid of rejection, make a request every day that might be rejected, such as asking for a discount or asking someone to work with you. Hill knew it would be scary the first time, uncomfortable the second time, but the 10th time it would be just another activity. After 90 days, you will have accumulated dozens of experiences that show that fear is just a shadow, not a wall. Hill would tell you, don't run from fear. Follow him until he stops intimidating. Napoleon Hill's fourth principle is building a goal-oriented mindset. Hill found that the bravest people acted not out of arrogance, but out of a sense of mission that was greater than their insecurities. He saw it in people like Andrew Carnegie, whose obsession with building a legacy forced him to overcome all obstacles. For the next 90 days, spend time each week clarifying your goal. Ask yourself, why am I here? What impact do I want to leave? Write a goal statement and read it every morning. Hill taught that when your life is aligned with a clear purpose, fear becomes irrelevant, because you know that turning back is not an option. Imagine that every day, by remembering your goal, you light a spark that burns away your doubts. Hill would say that a man with a clear goal not only overcomes fear, turns them into fuel for its greatness. Napoleon Hill's fifth principle is constant discipline. Hill knew that courage is not an isolated event, but a habit built consistently. He learned from leaders like John D. Rockefeller that discipline is the key to maintaining control in times of uncertainty. For the next 90 days, establish daily rituals that will strengthen your courage. For example, start each day with 5 minutes of intense exercise to wake up your body and mind. Then take 10 minutes to write down your fears and your plan to face them. Hill taught that these small acts of discipline build momentum that fear cannot stop. By the end of the 90 days, you will have completed over 1,200 minutes of disciplined rituals, which Hill says will develop a fear-resistant mind. If you like this video, click subscribe now. It's free, and you have no excuse not to. To join a community dedicated to destroying fear and living life to the fullest, Napoleon Hill style. Come on, show that you're ready to take bold action. Now let's talk about the importance of visualization, a principle that Napoleon Hill believed was necessary to overcome fear. He taught that the mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. For the next 90 days, spend 5 minutes each evening visualizing yourself successfully facing your fears. Imagine speaking in public with confidence, starting your project and receiving support, making a difficult decision and emerging stronger. Hill saw this in people like Alexander Graham Bell, who visualized his inventions before creating them. This practice is not fantasy, it's mental training. By visualizing success, you teach your subconscious that fear is not the inevitable result. Hill would say that each mental image is a building block for your courage. After 90 days, you will have accumulated over 450 minutes of visualization, which can change your fear response. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is environmental stewardship. Hill knew that fear thrives in an environment of chaos and negativity. He noticed that leaders like Charles Schwab created spaces that strengthened their self-confidence. For the next 90 days, cleanse your physical and mental environment. Organize your workspace, eliminate distractions like unnecessary social media, and surround yourself with people who inspire you to be brave. Hill taught that your environment is a reflection of your mind. If it is full of disorder, fear will find room to grow. Create a space that will remind you of your pursuit of perfection. Hill would say that a structured environment not only reduces fear, strengthens your ability to act purposefully. Now let's talk about the importance of strategic action, a principle that Napoleon Hill valued as a method of maximizing influence. He knew that it was not enough to act. You have to act wisely. For the next 90 days, carefully plan your actions against fear. For example, if you are afraid of failing a project, break the project into small steps and tackle one step each day. Hill saw this in people like Thomas Edison, whose strategy of gradual experimentation led him to overcome his fear of error. Every planned step is a blow to fear, because it shows that you are in control. Hill would say that strategic action not only destroys fear, build a clear path to success. Now let's talk about the importance of daily courage, the principle that Napoleon Hill believed was essential to living without fear. He knew that courage is not an event, but a practice. For the next 90 days, do something brave, even small, every day, such as expressing an opinion or trying something new. Hill noted that leaders like Theodore Roosevelt built their courage through everyday actions. Every act of courage is a vote for your new identity. Hill would say that everyday courage not only destroys fear, this makes you someone who never gives up. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is the practice of authenticity in action. Hill taught that acting against your values creates an inner fear that paralyzes you. For the next 90 days, make sure that every action you take reflects who you are and who you want to be. Hill saw this in men like Abraham Lincoln, whose authenticity made him a respected leader. Before you act, ask yourself, is this consistent with my truth? Hill would say that authenticity in action not only reduces fear, it gives you strength that no one can take away from you. Now let's talk about the importance of mass action, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered crucial in overcoming inertia. He knew that sometimes it took extraordinary effort to break the chains of fear. In the next 90 days, commit to taking a bold step in an area of your life, such as starting a project you've been putting off. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose massive actions led him to build an empire. Hill would say that mass action not only destroys fear, it creates a dynamic that nothing can stop. According to Napoleon Hill, another important aspect is creating a learning mindset. Hill taught that every experience, even failure, is a lesson that makes you stronger. For the next 90 days, treat every encounter with fear as a learning opportunity. Hill saw this in people like Thomas Edison, whose learning mentality led him to constant innovation. When you fail, ask yourself, what does this teach me? Hill would say that a learning mindset not only dissolves fear, this makes you someone who grows with every challenge. Now let's talk about the importance of transparency, a principle that Napoleon Hill deemed necessary to avoid confusion that fuels fear. He knew that a clear mind made important decisions. For the next 90 days, review your vision daily to ensure that every action you take is consistent with it. Hill noted that leaders like Henry Ford held their goals so clearly that fear had no room to grow. Ask yourself, is this action bringing me closer to my goal? Hill would say that transparency is not a luxury, living without fear is a must. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is the practice of personal responsibility. Hill taught that blaming others or circumstances reinforces fear. For the next 90 days, take full responsibility for your actions and results. Hill saw this in people like John D. Rockefeller, who accepted the consequences of their decisions without excuses. If fear is holding you back, don't blame the world. See how you can act differently. Hill would say that personal responsibility not only dulls fear, it gives you control over your life. Now let's talk about the importance of honesty, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the basis of trust. He knew that without honesty, the fear of detection was paralyzing. For the next 90 days, commit to making every decision with integrity, even if no one is watching. Hill noted that leaders like Theodore Roosevelt built trust through consistency in their words and actions. Keep your promises and live your values. Hill would say that honesty not only dissolves fear, makes you invincible. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is creating a mentality of service. Hill taught that focusing on helping others reduces the space for fear. Over the next 90 days, look for ways to add value to others, whether by sharing knowledge or inspiring by example. Hill saw this in people like Andrew Carnegie, whose generosity made him greater than his insecurities. Complete one act of service a week, no matter how small. Hill would say that a service mentality not only dulls fear, it connects you to a greater purpose. Now let's talk about the importance of perseverance, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the hallmark of the great. He knew that fear would only win if you gave up. For the next 90 days, commit to moving forward, even if the road is difficult. Hill noted that leaders like Thomas Edison persevered because they viewed every obstacle as a step toward success. When fear tells you to stop, remember your goal and keep going. Hill would say that perseverance not only destroys fear, it turns you into a person who never gives up. Another powerful principle from Napoleon Hill is the practice of humility. Hill taught that recognizing your limitations frees you from the fear of failure. For the next 90 days, keep an open mind, ready to learn from your mistakes. Hill saw this in men like Abraham Lincoln, whose humility made him a respected leader. Listen to others, accept feedback, and develop yourself. Hill would say that humility is not a weakness. This is the door to courage. Now let's talk about the importance of disciplined action, a principle that Napoleon Hill believed was crucial to maintaining control. He knew that discipline eliminated negotiating with fear. For the next 90 days, organize your day to prioritize anti-fear rituals such as visualization, immediate action, and reflection. Hill noted that leaders like Henry Ford were successful because their discipline was unbreakable. Hill would say that disciplined action not only destroys fear, creates a standard of excellence. Another key aspect, according to Napoleon Hill, is building a mentality of excellence. Hill taught that mediocrity fuels fear and perfection suppresses it. For the next 90 days, try your best to do every task, no matter how small. Hill saw this in men like John D. Rockefeller, who paid attention to every detail. Perform your work at such a high level that fear has no room to grow. Hill would say that perfection is not an act, it's a habit that sets you free. Now let's talk about the importance of connection, a principle that Napoleon Hill valued as the basis for lasting influence. He knew that no one could overcome fear alone. Over the next 90 days, build relationships with people who challenge you to be brave. Hill saw this in people like Andrew Carnegie, whose network of allies supported him every step of the way. Find mentors, join the community, and provide value to those around you. Hill would say that connections don't just make you stronger, they make you immune to fear. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is the practice of strategic reflection. Hill taught that success requires direction, not just effort. For the next 90 days, take time each week to assess whether your actions are reducing the fear. Hill watched as leaders like Charles Schwab reviewed their strategies to stay on track. Ask yourself, am I moving forward despite fear, or am I just busy? Hill would say that strategic thinking not only saves time, multiply your courage. Now let's talk about the importance of self-belief, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the driving force of every achievement. He knew that without belief in his potential, fear would always win. Over the next 90 days, cultivate unwavering faith in your ability to overcome any challenge. Hill saw this in people like Theodore Roosevelt, whose self-belief led him to overcome countless obstacles. When doubts arise, remind yourself of your past victories and visualize your future success. Hill would say that self-confidence is not arrogance, it is the fuel that destroys fear. According to Napoleon Hill, another important aspect is the creation of a system of accountability. Hill taught that commitment is stronger when you share it. For the next 90 days, find an ally or group that will hold you accountable for your actions against fear. Hill saw this in men like Abraham Lincoln, who relied on advisors to stay focused. Share your goals and review your progress weekly. Hill would say that accountability is not control. This is a reminder of your commitment. Now let's talk about the importance of emotional resilience, a principle that Napoleon Hill believed was necessary to overcome ups and downs. He knew that fear comes from emotional instability. For the next 90 days, train your mind to stay calm under pressure. Use your reflection time to observe your emotions without letting them control you. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose self-control made him an exceptional leader. Hill would say that emotional resilience doesn't just protect against fear, makes you unbeatable. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is to practice generosity. Hill taught that giving without expecting anything in return reduces the fear of rejection. Over the next 90 days, look for ways to help others, whether with your time, knowledge, or support. Hill saw this in people like Henry Ford, whose generosity made him greater than his insecurities. Perform an act of generosity every week. Hill would say that generosity not only weakens fear, connects you to abundance. Now let's talk about the importance of determination, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the fire that fuels success. He knew that fear only wins when you doubt your commitment. For the next 90 days, maintain unwavering determination to face every fear. Hill noted that leaders like Thomas Edison could not be stopped because their determination was greater than any obstacle. When fear challenges you, say out loud, "I will not give up." Hill would say that determination not only destroys fear, this makes you someone who never gives up. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is creating a mindset of possibility. Hill taught that fear comes from seeing limitations where there are none. For the next 90 days, train your mind to see every challenge as an opportunity. Hill saw this in people like John D. Rockefeller, who found solutions where others saw problems. Ask yourself, how can I turn this fear into a step towards my greatness? Hill would say that an attitude of possibility not only dissolves fear, create a future without limits. Now let's talk about the importance of authenticity in communication, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the key to influence. He knew that honest conversation reduces the fear of judgment. For the next 90 days, express your thoughts honestly, even if you feel vulnerable. Hill noted that leaders like Theodore Roosevelt were inspiring because their words were authentic. Hill would say that authenticity in communication not only destroys fear, builds trust. Another powerful principle from Napoleon Hill is the practice of immediate action. Hill taught that fear grows as a result of procrastination. For the next 90 days, act on the moment you identify fear. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose speed of action made him unbeatable. If you are afraid of the conversation, call now. Hill would say that immediate action not only kills fear, it creates a dynamic that no one can stop. Now let's talk about the importance of collective trust, a principle that Napoleon Hill believed was essential to success. He knew that the support of others reduced the fear of isolation. Over the next 90 days, build relationships based on mutual trust. Hill saw this in men like Henry Ford, whose network of allies strengthened him. Share your concerns with someone. You trust and support them in their struggles. Hill would say that collective trust doesn't just dampen fear. Thanks to this, you become part of something bigger. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is the practice of reinvention. Hill taught that overcoming fear requires letting go of old versions of yourself. Over the next 90 days, identify the habits or beliefs that fuel your fear and change them. Hill saw this in men like Thomas Edison, who reinvented himself to meet new challenges. Hill would say that reinvention is not loss. This is liberation. Now let's talk about the importance of passion, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the engine of courage. He knew that passion for a goal makes fear seem small. For the next 90 days, connect your activities with what you love. Hill noted that leaders like Abraham Lincoln acted with passion even in the face of adversity. Hill would say that passion not only destroys fear, makes you unforgettable. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is creating an influencing mindset. Hill taught that focusing on the change you can make reduces your fear of failure. For the next 90 days, think about how your actions can benefit others. Hill saw this in people like Andrew Carnegie, whose vision of influence made him greater than his doubts. Hill would say that an influence mindset doesn't just dissolve fear, gives you eternal purpose. Now let's talk about the importance of perseverance, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the key to transformation. He knew that fear only loses when you face it constantly. For the next 90 days, maintain your anti-fear rituals without exception. Hill noted that leaders like John D. Rockefeller succeeded because their perseverance was unwavering. Hill would say that perseverance not only destroys fear, creates a life without limits. According to Napoleon Hill, another powerful aspect is the practice of active introspection. Hill taught that acting on what you discover in your reflections strengthens your courage. For the next 90 days, use weekly reflections to identify fears and create plans to overcome them. Hill saw this in people like Theodore Roosevelt, whose introspection made him stronger. Hill would say that active introspection is not only freeing, gives you the strength to change. Now let's talk about the importance of long-term vision. ACTR's principle that Napoleon Hill believed was essential to overcoming fear. He knew that clear vision reduces the doubts of the present. For the next 90 days, stick to your vision of who you want to be in 10 years and use it to guide your actions. Hill saw this in men like Henry Ford, whose vision compelled him to act boldly. Hill would say that a long-term view not only dissolves fear, it gives you a purpose that transcends the moment. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is creating a mindset of continuous learning. Hill taught that every experience makes you stronger if you are willing to learn. For the next 90 days, treat every encounter with fear as a lesson. Hill saw this in people like Thomas Edison, whose curiosity made him unbeatable. Hill would say that a learning mindset not only blunts fear, this makes you someone who is always growing. Now let's talk about the importance of authenticity in leadership, a principle that Napoleon Hill valued as the basis for influence. He knew that authentic leadership reduces the fear of judgment. For the next 90 days, lead your life with decisions that reflect your values. Hill noted that leaders like Abraham Lincoln were inspired because they were authentic. Hill would say that authentic leadership not only destroys fear, lift everyone around you. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is creating a mentality of emotional abundance. Hill taught that positive emotions reduce the space for fear. For the next 90 days, cultivate joy, gratitude, and hope even in difficult times. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose positive attitude made him a magnet. Hill would say that having a mindset of emotional abundance not only makes you stronger, this makes you contagious. Now let's talk about the importance of consistent action, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the basis of freedom. He knew that consistency makes fear disappear. For the next 90 days, face fear every day without fail. Hill noted that leaders like John D. Rockefeller achieved the impossible because they never stopped. Hill would say that consistent action not only destroys fear, create an extraordinary life. Another powerful principle from Napoleon Hill is the practice of creative visualization. Hill taught that imagining your success in detailed programs your mind to overcome fear. For the next 90 days, visualize each day you confidently overcome your fears. Hill saw this in men like Theodore Roosevelt, whose clear vision made him unbeatable. Hill would say that creative visualization not only motivates, leads you to freedom. Now let's talk about the importance of personal responsibility, a principle that Napoleon Hill believed was essential to commitment. He knew that being responsible for yourself strengthens your courage. For the next 90 days, track your actions against fear using a journal or calendar. Hill saw this in people like Henry Ford, whose discipline kept him focused. Hill would say that personal responsibility not only ensures integrity, gives you courage. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is developing a leadership mindset. Hill taught that self-leadership is the first step to overcoming fear. For the next 90 days, make every decision with the mindset of a leader. Responsible, courageous, inspiring. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose ability to lead himself made him unique. Hill would say that a leadership mindset is not only freeing, it makes you a beacon to others. Now let's talk about the importance of transformational action, a principle that Napoleon Hill identified as crucial in breaking the chains of fear. He knew that sometimes a radical change is needed to move forward. In the next 90 days, find one bold action that can redefine your life and take it. Hill saw this in people like Thomas Edison, whose bold decisions changed the world. Hill would say that transformational action not only destroys fear, creates a new reality. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is the practice of strategic resilience. Hill taught that resilience is not just about resisting, but also about adapting and growing. For the next 90 days, use each failure as an opportunity to adjust your fear strategy. Hill saw this in people like Abraham Lincoln, whose resilience made him stronger. Hill would say that strategic resilience doesn't just enable you to perform, this will take you further. Now let's talk about the importance of authenticity in the pursuit of a goal, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the key to motivation. He knew that genuine purpose makes fear seem small, For the next 90 days, make sure your mission statement reflects your deepest values. Hill noted that leaders like John D. Rockefeller succeeded because their purpose was greater than themselves. Hill would say that authentic purpose not only destroys fear, makes you eternal. According to Napoleon Hill, another important aspect is creating a mindset for action. Hill taught that action is the bridge between fear and freedom. For the next 90 days, take one step toward your mission every day, no matter how small. Hill saw this in men like Theodore Roosevelt, whose constant action led to greatness. Hill would say that a mindset of action is not only freeing, this makes you someone who is always moving forward. Now let's talk about the importance of trust in the future, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered necessary to overcome uncertainty. He knew that faith in a better future gives you the strength to face fear today. For the next 90 days, believe that your efforts will bear fruit. Hill saw this in men like Andrew Carnegie, whose self-confidence inspired others. Hill would say that belief in the future not only motivates, makes you unstoppable. Another key principle from Napoleon Hill is the practice of strategic gratitude. Hill taught that gratitude changes your perspective, weakening fear. For the next 90 days, use gratitude to focus on what you have, not what you fear. Hill saw this in people like Henry Ford, whose gratitude kept him focused. Hill would say, that strategic gratitude not only dissolves fear, transform your life. Now let's talk about the importance of immediate action, a principle that Napoleon Hill identified as crucial in preventing the buildup of fear. He knew it was time to act. For the next 90 days, act whenever you feel fear. Hill noted that leaders like Thomas Edison succeeded because they did not allow fear to prevail. Hill would say that immediate action not only kills fear, creates results. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is creating a mindset of possibility. Hill taught that fear comes from seeing limitations where there are none. For the next 90 days, challenge your assumptions about what you can achieve. Hill saw this in people like Abraham Lincoln, whose mindset of possibility led him to overcome the impossible. Hill would say that an attitude of possibility not only dissolves fear, create new worlds. Now let's talk about the importance of authenticity in action, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the key to consistency. He knew that acting authentically reduces the fear of judgment. For the next 90 days, make sure that every action reflects your truth. Hill noted that leaders like John D. Rockefeller lived with integrity, which made them trustworthy. Hill would say that authenticity in action is not only liberating, gives you power. Another powerful principle from Napoleon Hill is the practice of mindfulness. Hill taught that being present reduces fear of the future. For the next 90 days, train your mind to focus on the present moment. Hill saw this in men like Theodore Roosevelt, whose presence made him unbeatable. Use your reflection time to practice mindfulness. Hill would say that mindfulness not only dissolves fear, improve your life. Now let's talk about the importance of inspiration, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the fuel of courage. He knew that the stories of others gave strength to face fear. Over the next 90 days, look for inspiration in the lives of those who have overcome fear, like the leaders Hill studied. Hill would say that inspiration is not a luxury. It's the spark that keeps your fire burning. According to Napoleon Hill, another key aspect is creating a mindset for action. Hill taught that action is the cure for fear. For the next 90 days, commit to taking action every day, no matter how small. Hill saw this in people like Andrew Carnegie, whose constant action led to greatness. Hill would say that an action mindset not only destroys fear, creates brightness. Now let's talk about the importance of collective trust, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the basis of strength. He knew that the support of others reduced fear. Over the next 90 days, build relationships of trust. Hill saw this in people like Henry Ford, whose network strengthened him. Hill would say that collective trust not only frees, thanks to this you become part of something bigger. Another key principle of Napoleon Hill is the practice of reinvention. Hill taught that overcoming fear requires evolution. For the next 90 days, abandon fear-fueling habits. Hill saw this in people like Thomas Edison, who reinvented himself to meet challenges. Hill would say that reinvention is not loss, this is freedom. Now let's talk about the importance of passion, the principle that Napoleon Hill considered the engine of courage. He knew that passion makes fear seem small. For the next 90 days, connect your activities with what you love. Hill noted that leaders like Abraham Lincoln acted with passion. Hill would say that passion not only destroys, fear makes you unforgettable. According to Napoleon Hill, another important aspect is creating an influencing mindset. Hill taught that focusing on the change you can make reduces fear. For the next 90 days, think about how your actions can benefit others. Hill saw this in people like John D. Rockefeller, whose vision made him greater than his doubts. Hill would say that an influence mindset doesn't just dissolve fear, gives you eternal purpose. Now let's talk about the importance of perseverance, a principle that Napoleon Hill considered the key to freedom. He knew that fear only loses when you face it constantly. For the next 90 days, maintain your anti-fear rituals without exception. Hill noted that leaders like Theodore Roosevelt achieved the impossible because they never stopped. Hill would say that perseverance not only destroys fear, create a life without limits. Fear has no power if you choose to face it. If this post helped you, please subscribe for more inspiration and comment the word courage if you are ready to defeat him once and for all.